The Reading Wars, From Theory to Teaching. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode on KZ Academy. I'm Misty, a credentialed teacher with over 20 years of experience in second language acquisition, mathematics, and elementary education. Through teaching, coaching, and tutoring, I've dedicated my career to helping students, parents, and educators understand the science behind how we learn. This episode is inspired by posts I have been making since 2018 in online forums, which helped lay the groundwork for what is now known as the science of reading. Many of the key ideas that Emily Hanford later presented as her research were already being discussed and shared by me in these forums before she brought them to a wider audience. It's gratifying to see that the techniques I've been redefining for over 20 years are now being embraced across America. Her voice played a crucial role in raising awareness and bringing these ideas into the mainstream. In today's episode, we'll discuss the important distinction between theory and instruction, and why just providing instruction doesn't always guarantee learning. This discussion comes in response to a recent post about how we seem to be going in circles, debating the importance of phonics. The limits of theory. Experts like Rudolph Flesch and Diane McGinnis, authors of Why Johnny Can't Read and Why Children Can't Read, sounded the alarm about reading instruction decades apart. They made a strong case for phonics, early intervention, and better teacher training. And honestly, much of what they said was right. But their work was mostly theoretical. They pointed out what wasn't working, but didn't provide parents or educators with clear, actionable steps to fix it. It was like pointing out all the flaws in how someone's solving a Rubik's Cube without giving them any steps to actually solve it. Just saying, do it better. Flesch criticized the whole language approach as early as 1950s, warning that without systematic phonics, many students would struggle. McGinnis picked up that same thread years later, focusing on how phonics connects to the structure of language and why early intervention matters. Both also acknowledged the role of teacher training and social economic factors. But knowing what needs to change isn't the same as knowing how to change it. Bridging the gap from problem to practice. This is where progress often stalled. The problems were clearly identified, and the critiques were well-founded. But for a parent trying to help at a kitchen table or a teacher in a classroom, the next steps were unclear. Simply saying, do it better, isn't enough. It lacks a clear path forward. That's where the current understanding and application of the science of reading comes in. The conversation has evolved. It's no longer just about identifying what needs to be taught. It's about understanding how to teach it effectively. Graphemes and the structure of English. One of the biggest changes has been how we talk about graphemes in relation to English phonics. Graphemes are the written representation of sounds. Before 2018, the word grapheme was rarely used in English phonics programs. It was mostly confined to linguistic or discussions about other languages, but the gap in language created a gap in instruction. I started using and sharing the term grapheme in public phonics discussion to explain a critical missing piece in the phonics versus whole language debate. Though English has only about 44 sounds, we represent those sounds in over 100 different common ways. Teaching just 40 or so letter-to-sound correspondences and expecting kids to decode confidently doesn't work. That level of decoding would be expected by the end of kindergarten. By third grade, students are expected to read just about anything, and many hit a wall because they're never taught enough of the graphemes in phonics to read using phonics. This isn't just a technical term, it's a practical one. It changes what we teach and how we sequence it, and it explains why so many kids were slipping through the cracks, even in programs that claim to be phonics-based. That's the difference between theory and instruction. From theory to instruction. This comic from Tiger says it perfectly. I taught Stripe how to whistle. I don't hear him whistling. I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. That punchline sums up educational practices of the past. The job isn't done when the teaching is done. It's only done when the learning happens. That means we need to stop measuring instruction by what was taught and start measuring it by what was learned. The learner has to be an active part of the equation. That's the key piece that was missing in much of the old reading debate, the actual process of learning. Just as I can show someone how to solve a Rubik's Cube over and over again without them ever learning to do it themselves, we can teach phonics rules all day, every day. But unless students are given the chance to actively practice, struggle, and succeed in using those rules and building their knowledge, no real learning happens. Instruction has to be explicit, structured, and scaffolded, but it also has to engage the learner in doing the hard work of learning. And learning isn't passive, it's hard. It takes repetition, struggle, memory, and effort. Humans aren't born knowing how to read, and no one can be gifted the skill. Reading is developed. It's built, piece by piece, through time, attention, and work. Teaching that leads to learning. Like I said in an earlier episode, it's a lot like solving a Rubik's Cube. For a long time, people had ideas. Some worked on parts of solving a cube. But until someone broke the entire process down into steps and taught others how to follow them, it remained a mystery to most people. Reading is the same way. The pieces have always been there, but we needed better instruction to make them work together. Though we are all different, we are all human, and humans, for the most part, learn in much the same way. We learn and we forget. It takes great effort to learn and integrate new ideas into our minds. Learning requires hard work, focus, and repeated practice. Lifelong learning through hard work with a positive attitude and integrity. I used to tell fellow teachers and parents all the time, I have never met a 1-year-old who is not dyslexic. When it comes to reading, every 1-year-old would qualify as dyslexic if we judge them by their ability to read. But that's not a sign of a disorder. It's a reminder that reading is not natural. It must be taught. No one is born knowing how to read. Reading is a complex skill, and like any other complex skill, it can be learned. Putting research into practice. For years, my focus has been on turning research into real-world teaching strategies, translating theory into actionable steps that help students learn. I spent time figuring out what works, how to teach phonics effectively, how to support blending, how to build fluency, and how to nurture confidence in struggling readers. I've shared these insights freely in online forums, aiming to equip others with practical tools. Questions like, how do you introduce sounds so they stick? How do you teach blending until it becomes second nature? How do you help struggling readers build stamina? These are the questions I've been working to answer, transforming them into practical advice that teachers and parents can use immediately. It's not magic, it's instruction. Thoughtful, well-sequenced, research-driven instruction paired with time, effort, and guided practice from the learner. Even the best research can't teach itself. The curriculum won't notice when a student is struggling to learn. A theory doesn't offer insights on why something isn't working. The science of how people learn is more accessible than ever before, but it still takes a skilled, responsive teacher to bring that science to life and turn it into progress. Practical tips and resources. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore practical strategies for effective reading instruction. But if you're eager to get started now, check out my Learn to Read and Write Teacher's Manual, Volumes 1 and 2, and the Student Learn to Read and Write Journal. These resources offer a clear, systematic path for teaching letter recognition, phonics, and blending. It's like having your very own step-by-step guide for reading instruction. Now, back to the conclusion. Instruction is the key. Research and theory lay the foundation, but it's instruction that drives real change by connecting with the learner. We don't need another philosophy. We need a plan, a method, a process. Much like solving a Rubik's Cube, knowing the steps brings clarity to what once seemed confusing. Once the path is clear, anyone willing to put in the work can learn. Reading is no different. Reading is not a right. Reading is a skill. It's not a gift we're given or a right we simply inherit. It's a skill developed through effort, honed with structured guidance, and perfected through practice. We just need to show people how, and if they're willing to do the work, they can learn to read. Instruction is the key that unlocks the door, but it's the learner who must open the door and step through it. That's how learning happens. If you found this discussion helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the fascinating world of education. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.